This is a Kohler Highcliff Ultra. There's also a Wellcomme Ultra, which is basically the standard version of the Highcliff Ultra. Introduced around 2016, these would slowly replace not only the Kohler Highcrest and its spin-offs like the Wellcomme and Highcliff, but also the Wellworth and Highline Flush toilets, which were basically like pressure lights on flushometer. A lot of people had high hopes for this particular toilet, but as time went on, it turned out to be a very mixed bag, and today we're going to take a look at it and see why that's the case. Starting off with the overall design, it actually looks somewhat different compared to the Highcrest and also the Highline and Wellworth bowls. The trapway is also a lot more normal compared to something like the Highcrest, which just kind of pointed straight down. This one has more like a standard normal looking trapway instead of one that looks like a pressure system based toilet, which is interesting. This is the trapway opening, and it looks like a zern, which is not a great sign, but it is slightly longer. You can also see the cipher jet towards the bottom there as well. This has a 2.1 inch trapway. Let's see how one of these flushes. As you can see, the flush is very simplistic, straight down flushing, and it doesn't even swirl, even on higher pressures. Definitely a very whatever flush. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of it at all. Now, when you compare the Highcliff and Wellcomme Ultra bowls to something like, say, the Kohler Highcrest or even the Wellworth and Highline Flush toilets, it's got some interesting comparisons. Compared to the Highcrest, this definitely has a better pulling factor, although not by too much, as this thing still can shred sometimes, but nowhere near as much as the Highcrest and its spin-off bowls. I honestly think the Wellworth and Highline flushometer bowls definitely do a lot better with pulling factor than this toilet does, but it could be worse, I guess. Performance-wise, this definitely performs a lot better compared to the Highcrest. The Highcrest is well known for clogging fairly easily, but in comparison to the Wellworth and Highline bowls, I honestly think they perform about the same, and that's just kind of like an okay margin. Like, nothing too out of the extraordinary, and they still can sometimes clog, but not as much as others. Now let's have a look at Wellworth's. While you can tell it's slightly angled, the Wellworth's is still crap. I'd say it's about as on par as the Kohler Highcrest, and that's not a good sign, honestly. The Wellworth and Highline bowls also don't really have too great Wellworths, but it's definitely better than this in the Highcrest. And that is the Wellcomme Highcliff Ultra toilets. Nothing too special, but also it could be a lot worse. It's definitely better than the Highcrest, but honestly, I'd definitely take the Wellworth and Highline bowls over this pretty bad toilet. But to be fair, it's definitely one of the better floor-mounted toilets you can get on flushometer today, which honestly really isn't saying much. But let's see how it goes on the grading scale. Let's grade it.
What do you want me to say about the overall design that has been said about other Kohler flushometer toilets? It's virtually the same, so I'm giving it a 4. The quality control seems pretty 50-50. While it's definitely a lot better compared to most crap made today, there are still some drawbacks like the bowl rinse and the pulling factor being kind of split. But outside of that, it's definitely an improvement compared to some other modern crap, but not really saying much because it's still getting a 5. Design consistency is pretty good for the most part, except for 2020 when they had those weird deformed ones that looked even more like a zern than the original ones do. Outside of that, it gets an 8. The trapway is pretty generic, but hey, it does work. Unlike the Kohler Highcrest, which has a 2.25 inch trapway, this one is only 2.1/8. But unlike the Kohler Highcrest, it actually has a decent sized opening, so I give it a 5. Man, the flush is just disappointing on this. It's just a straight down flush, and it doesn't even really have a chance to swirl all that much. So the flush gets a 4. The pulling factor is pretty mixed to say the least. These things can shred every now and then, but thankfully not as common as some other toilets, but still, not the greatest. I give it a 5. The performance is okay to say the least, but it's far from perfect. It performs better compared to a lot of crap made today, but compared to something like the 1.6 Padera or the ridiculousness of the 90s 1.6 Kohler Wellcomme or Highcliff, it kind of lags in comparison. I give it a 6 though. The ball rinse is crap. Again. These do have angled rim jets though, but it's applied so poorly to where the back rim gathers a lot of stains and even the front struggles sometimes. It's ridiculous. It gets a 3. The survivability seems okay for now, but I wouldn't be shocked if some of these start getting replaced in the future. For now, I give it a 6. Let's talk about the overall value of this toilet. There really isn't much to go off of this toilet, and big shock, it's another mixed bag. You know how much I love those. There are some redeeming factors like the performance and stuff like that, but most of it is just mostly not very great. The flush is boring, the bowl rinse is crap, and even the pulling factor is still 50-50. Sure, this is technically one of the better modern flushometer toilets, but that's not really saying a whole lot considering that most of it's still crap. This toilet is better than most of the modern crap made today, but it's still pretty meh. I give the value a 4. The final score of the Kohler Wellcomme or Highcliff Ultra toilets is a 50 out of 100. Who is really shocked that this toilet's pretty overhyped? I'm not. There are some redeeming factors of this toilet, but most of it is not very good. From the flush to the bowl rinse to even the pulling factor. While yes, this is slightly better than most modern crap made today, that's not really saying much, is it?